Hello and welcome to episode 13 of Stucky's Travels. It's just me today talking about Gettysburg. So, Miles and I do most of our traveling together, but we've only been to Gettysburg once together, and I've been to Gettysburg at least another 10 times on school trips. So, it's just a short video specific to Gettysburg. So, if you're driving from Warren County, Indiana, it's about a 10-hour drive to Gettysburg. You could stretch that out over a longer period of time if you want to make some stops, like in Columbus, Ohio, see the state capitol building. If you want to make any stops, you're going to go through a little tiny sliver of West Virginia. So if you want to stop in Wheeling, or if you want to make a little jaunt north to Pittsburgh. So you have some stops along the way that you could make, but about a 10-hour drive. So you could leave early in the morning and be at Gettysburg by late afternoon to see a little bit of the battlefield in the evening, or you could just drive one day and then start the next day. It's not too far to Philadelphia after that, and it's only about an hour and a half, depending on traffic, to Washington, D.C. from Gettysburg. So you'll need your National Park passport, and you're ready for the trip. So these stars are at places in downtown Gettysburg where you can actually find artillery shells still in the buildings, lodged in the buildings. And so these addresses you can type into your Google Maps, and then on foot you can walk to all of these places within 30 minutes or so. I recommend when you get into Gettysburg that's a great thing to do, to drive to the center of town, park somewhere near the circle, and then walk kind of in each of the four directions for 5 or 6 blocks. You'll get to see a lot of history. A lot of the buildings are buildings that were around in 1863 when the Battle of Gettysburg happened. The ones that are going to have a little plaque on the left-hand side of the door that says that they were around during that time. So it's just a really neat way to explore some history. There's some quaint little shops, and it's just a nice little town to visit. Over on the right-hand side, you can see how the military park in green really encompasses the town. So to the north, the west, and then very extensively to the south, all of that land is land where the Battle of Gettysburg happened between July 1st, 2nd, 3rd of 1863. You'll notice that there's the Gettysburg National Military Park, and then there's also the Eisenhower National Historic Site. Both of those are run by the National Park System, so you can get 2 different stamps in your passport. So this is around that circle that I was talking about in the downtown area. You can see on the left the Gettysburg Hotel, which is on the historic registry and has been around since the 1800s. And on the right, the reddish brick colored building is the David Wills House, which is where Abraham Lincoln stayed the night before he was going to deliver the Gettysburg Address, and he finished writing the address there. You can go into this building even still today on a tour through the National Park System, and it costs $7 for adults to go through the David Wills House. So then you approach the National Military Park, and you'll see some signs that look like this to get you there. One of the things you can pick up at the Visitor Center is a driving map. So there's many ways that you can explore the National Military Park. You can use a bicycle that you bring yourself. You can rent bicycles. I've even seen people on horseback riding tours. That you can take a bus tour. You can have a guide get into your car with you. You can drive on your own, or you can hike. Obviously, all of those are dependent on how much time you have available to explore. One good way to start, though, is by following this driving map. It's in the order of the days of the battle. So these first 3 spots that you're seeing on the map are day 1 of the Battle of Gettysburg, July 1st, 1863. And in the brochure that includes this map, it gives you a few sentence description of what's going on at each of those spots. Spot number 2, the Eternal Light Peace Memorial, is in a really neat eternal flame. They got the idea of having an eternal flame here from President Kennedy's eternal flame at Arlington National Cemetery. And it's a neat way to just remember the Battle of Gettysburg. And the stone that's used to make this memorial comes from both the North and the South. And on the day that they commemorated the memorial, there were people from both the Confederate and the Union troops who were involved with that ceremony. As you'll see on the map, there are some observation towers. Those are available for you to climb and get a nice view. On this map, you'll also see that there is a college in downtown Gettysburg. It's a very old, nice college with a lot of beautiful brick buildings to check out and walk around on their campus as well. This is the southern part, so this is representing the 2nd and 3rd days, July 2nd and 3rd, 1863, of the battle. And spot number 13 is of a special interest to people from Indiana because this is where the Indiana Memorial is in this area of number 13. You'll notice that there are some restrooms sprinkled throughout the battlefield area for your convenience. And as well as some of the larger memorials are marked. You can see number 12 is the Pennsylvania Memorial, which is the largest one. It is in Pennsylvania, so it makes sense that they would have been commemorating and memorializing the most soldiers. You can see there on the map number 5, Virginia, number 4, North Carolina, and so on. So again, this marches you through the battle and gives you just a small description of what's going on at any of these points. You can also Google and look up any of these spots, like number 8, Little Round Top, is a pretty important pivotal turning point of the Battle of Gettysburg, so it's interesting to read a little bit more about that. There's a lot of stories about Devil's Den as well that you can see on the map near there. There are hiking trails as well. This is the Indiana Memorial that I was referring to before. It's in the Spangler Spring area. And you'll want to make sure as an Indiana resident that you stop and see this and read about why the memorial is in this spot. There's a specific reason of what happened in this space back in 1863. This is a view of the Visitor Center from a distance. It's a new complex within the last 10 years, and it has a place to watch a movie. It's got a museum, and it has a cyclorama, which is an art exhibit piece that you can view. It does cost $15 if you want to do all of those things. It's completely free to explore the battlefield on your own, but if you want to do the museum, the movie, and the cyclorama, it's $15 for adults and $10 for children. Some other options of things that you can pay to do would be to go to the Eisenhower National Historic Site, which is President Eisenhower's home and farm, located only about 85 miles away from Washington, D.C. when he served as president. This was a spot where people, dignitaries from other world leaders could come here, and there's a lot of history there. So if you're really into history, you'll want to go to President Eisenhower's home. It's $9 for adults. So not too far from the Indiana Memorial is Culp's Tower, which is another climbing tower. You can see a lot of students on the tower at this point. Provides you with a really nice viewpoint of all around the city, really. And there are so many memorials on the battlefield of Gettysburg. There's over 1,300 monuments or stones or statues representing different regiments and different infantry groups that fought there and are being remembered. This is a view looking from inside the tower, like zoomed in across the countryside, just looking at the town from a distance. There's hills in the background. There's actually a ski slope that you can see from the top of Culp's Tower. This is the Pennsylvania Memorial on the left. That's zooming in from the top of Colts Tower, looking across the battlefield. You can go to the top of the Pennsylvania Memorial, and you just have, it's a very tight, narrow spiral staircase that goes up, but very nice memorial with all the names of the soldiers on the outside perimeter, and then a lot of other things commemorating Pennsylvania military men. On the right is just a zoomed in version of the statue on top of their memorial. These pictures are taken in the Little Round Top area. As I mentioned before, it's a important strategic situation happened at Little Round Top. When you go to Little Round Top, you'll see why it was a really great spot for the soldiers to be hunkered down behind the rocks, but having a great view of the landscape in the distance. This is the one of New York's monuments to one of their infantry troops. It is at Little Round Top. You can also climb a tight spiral staircase to go up in this monument as well. And then as you can see on the right, there are many, many statues throughout the battlefield that you can take pictures of and read about what happened in those spots. There are also a lot of replica things that have been recreated to give you more of a feel, including fencing that would have been sort of similar to the time period. So if you're really, really into history, you probably want something more than just a couple of sentences per each of those spots along that route. So you can go on a $35 per person bus tour, lasts about 2 hours. Or if you have enough people in your car, it might make more sense to do where you have a licensed battlefield guide get into your car with you. It's $75, and that's up to 6 people in the vehicle besides the guide. So per person, a really good cost to spend 2 hours driving the battlefield to spots that you want to see, asking the questions that you want to get answers to, and really, really learn a lot. So there's some great books you can check out from a library about Gettysburg before you go, with maps or where to find certain monuments or memorials, and just a really somber place to remember what was going on at this time. There aren't any pictures in this short slideshow of the National Cemetery, but you'll definitely want to make sure you stop there. There are some plaques commemorating the general area where Lincoln gave the Gettysburg Address. They actually recognize now that it's probably a couple hundred meters away from where the plaques are commemorating that event. But a really interesting National Cemetery with a very good brochure on the National Park website that goes along with that cemetery that gives you information at each of about 6 or 7 different locations within the cemetery. It's not real large, so you can easily walk it. So you're ready to go to Gettysburg. It really depends on how long you have to spend there. If you just want a basic understanding of what went on at the Battle of Gettysburg, you could probably do about 1 to 1.5 days. If you're really, really into it, you probably need at least 2 to 3 days. You could honestly make a full vacation out of Gettysburg and the general surrounding area. So it's up to what you and your family want to get out of the trip, but at least 1 solid day is what I would recommend if you have an interest in knowing more about what happened at the Battle of Gettysburg. Thank you for your time. Until next time.